Hi, this is Erhan with the JWoo NCSA, and today I want to go ahead and cover a quick tool called CyberChef. So CyberChef is pretty easy to find. All you have to do is search CyberChef in any search engine, and then you'll end up getting to this page here. CyberChef is pretty well known, especially in communities like the reverse engineering community, as a very easy to use tool that ends up letting you do all sorts of different things. From encrypting text, for example, type encrypt encrypting text to whatever you might need to encrypt it to. So I'll go ahead and we'll do base64, we'll do hex, and we'll go ahead and we'll do from base64 as well here. Encrypting text into sometimes nonsense characters and just playing around with it to encrypting things a bit more of a serious matter. For example, we'll go hex and then to base64. And you can go ahead and see that this tool is just sort of used for encrypting and decrypting things. So however much you want to go ahead and encrypt, you can go ahead and grab a lot of things. Go ahead and do some forensic stuff, some networking stuff, public key encryption slash encoding, AES, that kind of thing. And it ends up being pretty solid here. Hashing's not bad either. You can go ahead and throw some hash algorithms there. We'll do SSA1, and it will go ahead and encrypt some stuff for us. So on this notepad here, I've got a little bit of encrypted text. And while using your own sort of digital forensic skills and cryptography skills should certainly help, there are a couple things to certainly look at that end up sort of pointing us in the right direction. So the first thing I'm seeing is a bunch of strings of a couple of numbers here. Basically two numbers. And sometimes letters. So I've got an E, I've got an A, I've got a couple of numbers here. And what this is telling me is that this encrypted text here, and we'll throw it into CyberChef, is most definitely in hex. Especially if we can go ahead and see that it's only doing numbers and letters. And even without spaces, it doesn't really change the output here. So in favorites, I'll go ahead and do from hex. And you can see we have some output here. Now this doesn't exactly look like a normal output, but it definitely is pointing us in the right direction. And you can see that the space isn't really affecting anything if I did it just as one string. But a lot of times hex will go ahead and be sorted into several different little bytes, I suppose. So once we go ahead here, we can honestly play around with CyberChef to go ahead and take a look at a couple things. Like we can go ahead and see, I'll go to hashing. We can go ahead and see if this is in any sort of hashing algorithm. And we can go ahead and just throw a bunch of things on it. One of the things that we'll certainly see is there are quite a lot of characters in just this string here. Of course, I'll go ahead and point out that this string here is encoded in base64. And you can go ahead and see that this is an encrypted statement. Happens to be our plain text. So you'll hear the terms plain text and ciphertext quite often, and the main difference between them is ciphertext is the encrypted text, while plain text is the unencrypted text. And that's a pretty simple overview of CyberChef. Go ahead and type in whatever you need to. Go ahead and take a look at a couple of things. Play around with it, have a good time. But CyberChef is mostly just encrypting, decrypting, and doing whatever we need to. And we've gone ahead and just taken this pretty simple encryption into the plain text here. Of course, we can go ahead and make it a bit harder. So I'll take this as an encrypted statement, and I'll do this in reverse so we can get the exact same thing. So I'll go ahead and encrypt it in the same way. To get it from the exact same method, you can see the first number here is 56. We do 2 base64, 2 hex. And you can certainly play around with a couple things, a couple hash algorithms. MD5 is pretty common, I'll grab that one. And we'll throw this on top. And then you basically just work backwards with anything that you are making. Sometimes it's as simple as just clearing some stuff. For example, you can hide certain parts of the recipe here. You can delete the whole recipe, and you can try a whole bunch of different things. You can go ahead and also hit bake if you wanted to. Bake also does the same thing, but it seems to just auto do it on my end. So that's a pretty brief overview of CyberChef and how to go ahead and encode and decode things into plain text and ciphertext.